What is the longest running lie you have continued to tell? I was seeing this girl once back in college that was also a workout buddy after our classes. She had really bad body odor when she got to sweating, but we're in the gym a lot, so of course it's going to happen. However, instead of just telling her about it, I told her I could never notice it because I didn't have a sense of smell. Well, this lie spread from this one girl all the way to my family that still believes that I don't have a sense of smell. It's been 8 years and I still can't add to any conversations about the smell of rain or a new candle that somebody bought. I'm in too deep at this point, so I'm gonna ride this bee out till they put me in the ground. When I first started dating my ex-wife, I told her my little brother was Samoan. This is because though he is 6 years younger than me, he is about 6 inches taller, much broader, and his hair is way dark compared to the rest of the family. She didn't think anything of it. Met my brother. She even understood that we both had the same parents. It just never clicked with her. She would bring it up occasionally and I'd just go along with it. Eventually she brought it up at a family dinner and my whole family was like, what? Then we got divorced. Don't really do it anymore, but for years in middle and high school I would tell everyone that me and another kid were related since we had the same last name, since I knew it annoyed him. My sister and I used to tell people we weren't related at all. We just lived together because parents kicked her out of the house. One of my classmates and I convinced all the freshmen that we were brother and sister, but our parents were divorced. They believed until about 2 years later when we joked about dating. I didn't want crab salad my wife, then GF, had made, so I told her I was allergic to shellfish. Continued for about 10 years when we went to go visit my family in CA and didn't want to pass up this awesome seafood place. I got better. At the beginning of the year in school, we were all supposed to tell the class one interesting thing we had done over the summer, and I of course had stayed home and done nothing all summer, but I didn't want everyone else to know that. So when it came to be my turn, I just made something up. For some reason the first thing that came to my head was Africa, and that's what I said, that I went to Africa. For years I've had to remember who heard that, and to keep my lie going. It has been the most stressful thing I've ever done. At least Africa was nice though. I wrote erotica for many years before I switched over to romance novels. Glorious filth that basically allowed me to pay off my student loans. If anyone in my family asks, I was writing corporate reports. No one has ever asked me what a corporate report is, thankfully, because I'm pretty sure my response would be something along the lines of, you know, it's business stuff for businesses, followed by me repeating the word synergy until they went away. Explanation of public and private relationships with deep physical market penetration in both standard and non-standard openings. Discussion of implausible firm members performing for unrealistic time frames, resulting in overly expressive artificial outcomes. I posted this a while back. Many years ago, back in our teenage years, my younger sister landed her first job and was so proud that she was able to use her own money to buy Christmas presents for her siblings. While not extravagant, her gift to me was a box of chocolate-covered mints. Now, I'm not a big fan of said mints, but I could see how much it meant to her, so I pretend like they were delicious. Like full on savoring every bite. I'm talking some Meryl Streep level acting. So much so, that I finished the box in minutes flat. This makes such an impression on her, that she has bought the same chocolate covered mints for me every year since. It's been almost 30 years that I've kept up the charade. This is where it gets dark. About 5 years ago, I met my wife. On our first Christmas together, she's looking for cute ideas on what to buy me. Cue her talking to my family and it comes out how much I love chocolate covered mints. I get them every year, my sister says, and always finish the box before eating breakfast. Wife thinks this is a perfect way to celebrate our first holiday together. A little taste of home. Now, for the past 5 years, the lie I had only had to live through on Christmas has become the living heck of each and every week. No one knows my secret shame. Anytime my wife wants to surprise me with a sweet, motherfucking chocolate covered mints. When my sister and I were kids, we were sleeping on an inflatable mattress at home. We had just gotten back from the seaside and weren't quite ready to part with it, so we got to sleep on it one last night. Well, rather than sleep, we were playing. jumping, etc. And at one point my sister jumped and broke a vase that my parents had gotten as a present when they got married from quite close friends. It always had candy in it. My mom rushed in, my sister started crying, and I immediately started apologizing, saying how I accidentally knocked it over. I didn't mean to, etc. etc. I got my butt chewed out for that, but my younger sister just kept crying. The mattress was immediately taken away of course and we went to bed. Now, it's 20 years later. My parents still think that I was the one who broke it. When we get together, one of us will sometimes mention it in passing. Not how I thought that story was going to turn out. Username added hint of NSW. But congrats on your pure soul. Amazing there are people still out there uncorrupted by the internet or Reddit. Growing up, my brother, mom, and I went to visit my grandma one day. On the way home, we found a puppy on the side of the road and brought it home with us. We had that dog for like 12-14 years. He passed away last July. He was a huge German shepherd, like 6 feet long from snout to the end of his tail. He was as big as our Saint Bernard. Because my grandma lives in the mountain area, we live in the foothills. We would always joke that he was a wolf or something that we just brought home. Nope. My mom took me and my brother to the pound that day to pick out a puppy because she wanted one. Only us three, and the internet. No, and we still haven't told our dad or our other siblings. Not so much a lie as an omission of truth. When I was 15 my parents and siblings went out of state and I was left to house sit and mind the dogs. Wasn't supposed to have anyone over but of course, I did. So my 2 friends and I had taken out all my dad's guns and spread them out on the floor in the living room just to mess around with them. The only loaded gun was the .357 revolver which I unloaded. Pretty much just dry firing them a couple times. Anyways, when we were done, I reloaded the revolver and told Mike I reloaded it. He acknowledged he heard me while still playing a game on my Sega Genesis. Minutes later, I'm playing the game. Leo, other friend, is upstairs on the computer and Mike is sitting next to me. All of a sudden the whole house fills with the crack of a firearm going off. I drop the controller and look over at Mike who is pale as a sheet with the revolver in his hand. Leo almost falls down the stairs running to see what happened. Mike had been twirling the gun around his finger when it went off. The round went through the wall separating the living room from my parents' bedroom and about 2 inches from hitting the wood stove pipe that goes up through the second story and into the roof. I check my parents' room to see where the slug went but there is no exit hole. Mike's freaked out. We lived in a pretty small community where most people at least knew of everyone else and my dad was one of the 2 sheriff's deputies on the West Shore. Mike was always the good kid in town so he was all over himself with panic that his parents would find out and left for home. Leo and I grabbed some spackle and patched the hole, even griming the patch so it matched the discoloration of the rest of the wall since it sat behind a wood stove. 27 years later, my parents still don't know what went down while they were gone. I figure there's still a round stuck in a stud behind the wall. What scared me straight was the thought of Mike accidentally blowing his head off in my living room. I cleaned the gun and good thing because when my parents came home, my dad actually smelled the guns to see if any of them had been fired. One of the very few things I got away with as a kid. Pretty lucky. I lied about going to a bartending competition as an excuse to not go on a date in 1991. I realized that I was still telling it 15 years later to people it had absolutely no bearing on. I had told the lie so many times that it became ingrained as part of my story. I literally stopped myself in mid-sentence and said, wait, no I didn't. I totally lied about that and hence released the untruth from myself forever. Okay, really it was no burden. I thought it was kind of funny to be thoughtlessly still lying about something completely insignificant so many years later. Not me but this kid in high school pretended to be Australian for 3 years. Our school was in California. Everyone believed him, even when he practiced his American accent on the phone whenever his mom called because she didn't like when he used his Australian accent. The lie fell apart when he took one of his GFS home to meet his family. She then made him go around the entire school and apologize for lying to everyone. One day when I was 8 I was in the car with my dad and the song Rock and Rock All Night by Kiss came on the radio and I decided to sing along to it. I knew my dad loved classic rock and I figured it would be nice to share a moment with him. He took it as me being spontaneously inspired by the music and he still brings it up 16 years later. Best not to tell him I was throwing him a bone at the time. Similar thing with me, my uncle, and ZZ Top. Cue a ZZ Top Greatest Hits CD for my next birthday. We were just fishing and he liked it and I wanted him to think I was cool and grown up, so I exaggerated how much I was enjoying the music. That I am allergic to pot. Told this to get out of trying it when I was 15. For various reasons have had to keep it up for 20 years. I have no problem with weed smokers. I just don't like having to get hassled when I turn it down. Not that that happens much anymore. See, I actually am, and people are total douches about it, saying they don't believe me, telling me to try it anyway, blowing smoke in my face. Like, no, I will actually swell up, barf all over you, and black out. Stop. I'm pretty good friends with a colleague that teaches the same group of kids that I do. One day in class, I made an off-the-cuff comment about how we don't get along. The kids believed it, so I went with it and texted her to go along with it too. We kept it going for almost 2 years with the kids openly bad-mouthing each of us in the other's classes. Now that's commitment. That I like my best friend's husband. He's a vile, bitter, hateful human being who thinks he's better than everyone. I have literally not told anyone. Now we know. SAT score. I always tell people I scored in 1140. This was when 1600 was highest. It's a believable score for someone who sucks at math like me. I got below 1000 twice. Just so you know, 1600 is the highest again. Don't ask me why they changed it. Basically everything about how university is going to my parents. They've been pressuring me for months about it, so if they found out I've done nothing with myself for almost 2 months they'd just be disappointed. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Yeah, I'm going out and not just staying in all the time. Yeah, I have friends. I'm in the same boat, random stranger of the internet. I tell my parents that I'm not completely alone when in fact all of the conversations I have at the university is polite conversation with the subway worker. That I don't want to get married. I actually do. I don't want kids though, and I feel like I'd be bad in a relationship. It's been a long time since I was a boyfriend. And who wants to marry a guy that doesn't want kids? Maybe I'm biased, since I can't conceive naturally, but it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. There are plenty of people, such as yourself, for whom kids aren't a requirement. I get most of my news and information through Reddit. I pass it off as something I heard from a friend. If I divulge my source, everyone will start using Reddit and I won't have anything interesting to say. LOL, same. Or people won't know what Reddit is, or they might not take it seriously as a source. Almost all of my stories start off with "so I read this thing" or "I heard that some people does." That losing an arm didn't affect me that much. It's now been 8 or 9 years I've lost it. I was such a good liar, even I believed it at some point. Then I had to make the choice of putting down my dog or letting him suffer to his death after a 4 hours long stroke. But you know, I'm a man. Then my GF left me. I was distant and detached from my feelings, and she found someone who was more in tune with her, throwing a 10-year relationship to the side. Heck, at first I just shrugged her life. I was able to survive on my own, but slowly but surely the mask shattered. My ex and a friend I confided in saw behind the mask when I was at my lowest, but most friends and family still think everything is fine, and I was more aggravated for the doctors cutting my head and my arm. Dude, just wait till we get bionic limbs. You're gonna be the sickest mother out there. My first day on the job at a local fast food restaurant, we were robbed at gunpoint. It was my first job as a teenager and I knew if I told my parents they would make me quit. When they asked how my first day went, I said fine. When I was 14 and in a long distance race during gym class, my friend tripped over my leg. It was pretty crowded and rolled over in front of all those people. She blamed someone else and has no idea it was me. It's been 20 years. We're still friends and she'll never know. Wahahaha. I live in the UK where being circumcised isn't that common. I am circumcised. I also have a massive beard. When I first met my ex, I told her very seriously that I was circumcised because I was Jewish. She believed it for way longer than she should have. Same. Ended up with extra holidays for 6 months before I moved jobs. I'm gay. My mom always thought I was gay and did one of those coming out parties. Just kinda rolled with it even though I have a girlfriend. I invented a mentally disabled younger brother when I was at university and used him as an excuse to get out of seminars early to go and take care of him. I hated you in group work. Sick grandmother that you know will die 4 days before work due date. Frick her. Entered her contribution separately. 1 paragraph. A couple of years back, when I was living in my apartment complex, I had a neighbor convinced that I was some sort of government agent, spy, etc. It was a neighbor who I would constantly see in passing, seemingly always when I was either leaving or arriving to my apartment. It was usually odd hours, 7 AM 7 PM. I also don't work on Mondays, but also sometimes work on the weekends, so my schedule probably seemed very erratic. Combine that with the fact that I would always be carrying multiple, nondescript bags, usually camera equipment, my gym bag or hockey stuff. Sometimes I would be carrying my range bag for when I went to the shooting range to practice or for a competition. One time, after unloading from the range, a few stray empty shell casings must have spilled out from my bag and around my car. I didn't see them until I came back out later in the day and saw my neighbor. She pointed them out and asked me, "What do you do for a living?" In a very dramatic, serious tone. I replied, "I work in asset protection and asset recovery." After a couple of silent moments, with a puzzled look she asked, "What does that mean?" Furthering the ruse, I replied, "I protect things that are very valuable to very important people and I recover very valuable things from very bad people." The look that came across her face was priceless. I immediately turned and walked away as a punctuation on an Oscar-worthy performance. She bought it hook, line and sinker. I made it about 10 steps before I started laughing hysterically to myself. I kept up that persona for the next 2 years. I'll be honest, it was pretty fun. Well, not me but my father, and it's kind of morbid. My parents live in a pretty big house and have a patch of land for horses. Once a year my father hires a farmer that lives nearby to cut the grass with a large machine attached to a tractor. The farmer did as requested and drove the tractor through the land. However, once he was about halfway he suddenly heard a loud shriek. Turns out the neighbor's cat was there and he cut off all 4 paws clean. Must have looked pretty horrific. But worst of all, the cat was still alive. The farmer rushed to my dad to tell him what happened. My father brought a shovel and released the cat from its misery. It was quite heartbreaking. Right after, they buried the cat there in the field. To this day, nobody ever told the neighbors. The cat simply went missing and never returned. Nobody had the heart to tell them what happened. I applaud your family for that secret, really. I would not want to know any of my pets had that be their last moments. Better to dream they found a new family that cared for them even if deep down I didn't believe that. In 3rd grade a girl moved to my school and instantly I had the biggest crush on her. When we got to talking she was convinced that she knew me from her old school. 3rd grade logic was to lie and say that I did go there and just moved as well. It started as just a quick "yeah that was me" so that her and I would have something to talk about, but quickly progressed into elaborate stories about other classmates or teachers there and even included stories about our play dates that we had. This went on extensively from 3rd grade until 10th grade when I moved away. A friend of mine and I who go to the same college constantly tell people we're siblings because we look alike. We have like at least 10 people who believe it now. Funniest part is that my actual sister goes to the same college as well. That I miss my family. Everyone is always telling me how sorry they are for me and how hard it must be to have no contact with them anymore, and it's just too much to try and explain that I have zero emotional attachment to any of them. The one time I tried explaining it to someone they kept shrugging it off like, "Oh, you just need some time to move past it and then you'll get along again and be one big happy family." Even if I get into the deep dark depths of their betrayal, life, long abuse and neglect, I still get the same answer. Why is it so odd that sometimes families just don't work out? It's perfectly acceptable and encouraged to completely cut ties with ex-friends and lovers who treat you like crap. So why the double standard just because we're related? I told one colleague that I played 2 seasons at a local football club which is in the 3rd German division in my youth. I'm not bad at football and sometimes I help his team out when they have too little players and he always says yeah he is pretty good, he played at club name in his youth, and then I get asked about my time there. He also told it to some colleagues and sometimes some of my friends are doing an internship at my work and I always hope that he doesn't talk with them about it. I don't know why I told him this. I wish I didn't. But the good thing is I have friends who played there in their youth, so I have all the info I need to keep this up. It's been 3 years. Wish me luck. And with football I mean football, but some may call it soccer. You would say too few players. In general, if it's something you can count you say too few. If it's something you can't count you would say too little. For example, too few players versus too little energy. Most English speakers have trouble with that. I'm pretty sure I get it wrong half the time. That I'm Christian. I have told friends and more understanding family members my true beliefs, but my 90-something-year-old grandparents are going to die thinking their sweet little Evan dude is a good Christian boy. Sometimes keeping the peace is good. I had a strange Spanish teacher. She was extremely gullible and might have been too old for teaching. One day she called roll and I told her my name was Billy and that my real name was just my twin brother. Everyone went along with it. For 3 years I would put a jacket on when I was me and take it off when I was Billy. Teachers would send appreciation letters to us occasionally and I have two, one for me and one for Billy. I'm not sure if I found it funny or if I was hurt when she came to see Billy's graduation and not mine. Because Billy didn't wear that jacket. That I'm allergic to bananas. I'm not allergic. It's just that the smell of them makes me physically sick. It's easier to say I'm allergic for people to not open them around me than it is to justify my physical reaction. My wife tells places that she's allergic to pickles because she hates pickles so much. I don't think anyone on earth is allergic to a pickle. That I hate caramel. I don't know why I ever said it. Don't know how to change it now that everyone thinks that. I actually really enjoy caramel. This one you could change in steps. Oh, I found this kind of caramel I actually like. Then I've gained a new appreciation for caramel. My wife and I tell people we met through a mutual friend. In reality she randomly added me on Facebook and was like IBBY, you fine as frick. Her family is just packed with uptight judgmental people. It's just easier to tell the lie. I met a GF on MySpace the same way. Talked everyone it was a blind date. That everything is fine and I'm happy. It's not, but I don't know why not or how to fix it. I've been trying to get therapy for a little while but the NHS provided ones have burned me so many times. And the private therapists with evening appointments either don't reply or aren't taking patients. Like, people just say see a therapist when you're depressed like it's easy, but it's just not. In kindergarten, a friend of mine and I found one of those old stove kettles you boiled water with outside on the playground. We filled it with wet sand to make it heavy and decided to throw it high in the air towards each other. So much fun. What you think was bound to happen, happened. I got it right in the head, which cracked my skull open and has now given me a scar. However, I tell people that I was playing in the nearby sandbox, and some idiot thought it'd be fun throwing around that kettle which then hit me in the head. I feel so stupid that I to this day cannot admit I was actually a part of it myself. My very close friend is the only person in the world I've told the true story to about 10 years after it happened. Yikes. Hi, thanks for calling X Restaurant. This is Zedric69. How can I help you? Hi, insert more common, similar sounding name. I need X. Doesn't correct them over the course of a 10 minutes conversation. Hates myself every minute of it. I had a couple attempts at suicide. Went to therapy, a few weeks at a mental hospital. Family knew I had depression, but not that it got that bad. When I was in AP biology in high school, I had a really difficult time reading litmus tests. I think the lighting at my lab station must have been off, because my answer was always incorrect. I was so frustrated that I ended up telling the teacher I was colorblind. Because it was AP Bio, she ended up making an example of me when it came time to demonstrate hereditary traits. Maybe you are colorblind. Or maybe you just have a different idea of what constitutes a specific color, like the difference between gray blue and blue gray. I often find myself arguing with my friends about what color something is if the color is very borderline. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.